Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Iman from On Point. Today, we are going to have a webinar on Bizview and Power BI. So, just 5 minutes until everyone joins and are starting. Thank you.
Magic. Most 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 magic.
Hello again, everyone. So, today, as I said earlier on, we are having a webinar with Insight Software. So, I'm happy today to have you all joining us today. So, before starting, can you like drop down in the comment section where you are from so we can know our viewers, please? Just write down on the comment section, like drop down your country, your flag, so we can get to know you. Okay, we have Joseph from Ghana. We have a lot of people coming from Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. Welcome, everyone. Today we have a special surprise. We have two people who are very talented and joining us from Insight Software, coming all the way from the UK. So yeah, before starting, just drop down where you are from, and then we are starting. So this session is gonna be mainly about forecasting and how Bizview will help you in that. So just write down in the comment section your country or your flag before starting. Okay. Now, everyone, please welcome our dear presenters from the UK. We have Ranzel with us and also Gustav. Welcome, everyone. How are you today?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having us, Imen, and thank you to On Point as well. Good afternoon and good morning to everyone that's watching. I'm not sure where you are, but pleasure having you guys with us today.
Thank you for the kind
Thank you so,
introduction. Nice to see you both.
thank you so
Amazing.
much, guys, for joining us today. Are you excited for this webinar today?
Definitely excited. Gustav is coming all the way from Sweden, and I'll be presenting from London, the UK. So, yeah, very excited to connect with all of our friends from wherever you guys are.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure to have you. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, Ranzel, you will start first by presenting Insight Software and Bizview, and then we are having a very interesting demo session with Gustav. So,
Yeah,
I will leave the floor for you guys. Thank you so much.
100%. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's do it. Can There we go. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Iman, for passing us the floor. So today we're going to be covering just a general presentation into what Bizview is, covering Bizview features, and seeing how our planning solution complements Power BI. So we'll be going over how Bizview can help with more frequent reforecasting, how you can spend less time preparing and consolidating, and also showing you its user adoption with its spreadsheet functionality. So just before we go straight into things, quick introduction into myself. So I've been with Insight Software now for about 3 years. I am a channel manager, so I manage the relationship with OnPoint and working with Bizview as well as some of our other products, which I will go into in our next slide.
And I'm based in Sweden, as Ranzel mentioned. I worked with the Bizview product for around 7 years, and coming from a implementation specialist standpoint, and now working with presenting it for pre-sales and webinars, and also working with some internal strategic development, which is really fun.
Great. Thanks, Gustav. So just before we go into the magic of Bizview, I thought I would give you guys an introduction into who we are as a company and Insight Software. So Insight Software, we are based out of North Carolina. However, we do have global operations. So we are serving the office of the CFO with our solutions. We Anything that you can find within the office of the CFO, we would have solutions for. You may know us from Jet Reports, if some of you are on Business Central. So yeah, we have a whole portfolio of solutions, and as you can see, we have 32,000 customers worldwide now. So going into Bizview, this is what we typically hear on a daily basis. These are the problems we see with finance teams. We hear about manual planning taking too long when it comes to these processes. It's very difficult to control. We also hear that planning is very fragmented and lacks the transparency that a department needs, and also lacks the flexibility for any strategic analysis. These are the things that we believe should be put in place for effective planning. We believe that organizations should be able to shorten their planning cycles, so automating tasks, automating workflows, and just keeping everything up to date so that it's reflected directly into the ERP system. We also believe in extending the planning beyond finance, so in enabling frontline workers participating in the planning process, and also increasing planning accuracy. So through advanced forecasting modules, powerful spread rules, and system proposed forecasting, this is how we achieve that. So this is where Bizview comes in. So what is Bizview? Bizview at a very high level is a robust web-based planning solution that shrinks planning cycles, facilitates collaboration, and simplifies processes to drive smarter decisions from more accurate data. And just an interesting stat below, you can see one of our customers actually had shrank their monthly forecasting by up to 92%. So how does Bizview help with planning? Bizview offers fast, scalable cloud planning software and a browser-based solution specifically designed to facilitate and accelerate planning processes. I've just got a few of the features showcased here. I know Gustav will go into it, but it's nice to just kind of touch on what it does before we show you the magic of it. So Bizview can easily adapt to your business processes. It can create any type of planning form or report. It can adapt to specific business needs, improve efficiency with workflows, and also reduce any errors through audit trails. There's this familiarity of Excel as well with Bizview. You know, if I know with our finance guys, they love Excel, so Bizview kind of gives you that similar feeling of Excel. And you're also able to scale and adapt to your growing business needs. So you can automate any tasks with our dashboards, use Bizview's built-in analytics with its drag and drop features, system proposed forecasting, and auto fill forms with predetermined spread keys. And the beauty of this all is that we can get you up and running fast. You know, it's very easy to configure and it's a quick setup. There's an open architecture. We have pre-built connectors and content, and it's a very easy integration with any data source and ERP. It's very agnostic. The number of use cases are almost endless. As you can see, just a few here: sales and demand budget forecasting, employee FTE planning, cost budgets and result budgets, project pre-calculation budgets. You know, we have a lot, and Gustav again will just be showing you a very high level of it and how we can complement Power BI. So Gustav, if I just hand it over to you and we can get straight into the demonstration.
All right, let's get going. I'll steal the screen share.
No problem.
And see, get the right screen. And as we see right away, I'm logged in to Bizview here through the Chrome browser. So it's fully web-based. Everything you need to do in the system is in the browser, and you can use any modern browser for this. I'll show you a little bit from Edge later for a different demo use case. But the first thing I'm presented with is a home dashboard, and this can be personalized for different roles or users. And here I can see some overview of my sales per product group, my workflows and how they are progressing, multiple workflows here, and my top users, one of which is James Miller, which is me here. I'm logged in as James Miller, the budget process admin and owner. And I see some main KPIs here and some number of customer issues as well. On the left-hand side of my screen, I have my favorite reports and input forms, which we'll get to later, and my workflow tasks, where I have a bunch load of tasks to do because I have insight and ownership over everything here. Up in my right-hand corner here, I have also added a little bit of a sneak peek to a Power BI dashboard showing some cash flow analysis for some investment projects that we'll get into at the end of the demo as well. At the very bottom of my screen, I have multiple tabs where I can show different views in the dashboard of different measures and items that are relevant to me. But let's get started with jumping into a workflow, which is something that defines the tasks within a budget process. In this case, it's set up for the company United States, within which we have a couple tasks like verifying our planning version opening dates for when we can do our budget, and some global employee parameters, for instance, setting our social fee percentages or pension tax, etc. I have some shared services that are spread out among other cost centers, and this is a cost center itself. But if we get down to New York here, we can see that we have multiple cost centers doing their own thing within this workflow. I'm going to take a step here to New York's employee budget, where I, James Miller, have just uploaded a new HR memo with the annual merit increase. We can look at that memo and see that this is dated from December 1, and it says that we should update the merit increase dates for May 1, 2025 for this year's budget. So me, as the responsible for the task of performing the employee budget, will now write a comment to Alex Brown, who is the person performing the budget. I have a prepared comment here that I'm just going to copy and paste. Hi, Alex. Please update the salary increase date to May this year as per the attached HR memo. The thing that happens now is that Alex gets a notification. Just like you see, I have 2 notifications on New York and my profit and loss budget input here. He also gets an email with a link to this specific task where he can open the employee budget and make these changes. If I want to be extra thorough here and making sure that Alex got the information, I can also share this link on my own. I can choose to include the header and navigation if I want to, or just click the copy button and share that in a chat to Alex in some other system. If I go ahead and open this employee budget, we can see that Alex Brown has locked this form, and that means he's the doer of this budget, so he's the one performing the task. I cannot make any changes no matter how much I press the buttons. This is locked for me. This can be unlocked, but you have control of the process here. Who does what, when, and why. I can see that the total for my salaries from this cost center's employee budget summarizes to 1.270 million. This number is stored in the database along with my business dimensions. No matter where they come from, if it's from Business Central or SAP or NetSuite, any ERP system can feed Bizview with these dimensions and tie the data back to it. So naturally, if I follow this number into my profit and loss template, I'll see a line for salaries containing this total. I'll go back to workflow here and just verify that I have that number in the profit and loss as well. And that way we have something that we can track as this should have changed if Alex Brown has finished his update of the salary increase dates. Here we get the same message that it's all locked. And we can scroll through our profit and loss budget input template here and find these salaries that we were talking about. We'll find the staff costs, under which we have staff costs public and salaries other. This is the same account that we were looking at, and the 1.270 million in here. So once Alex goes and changes these numbers, we'll see them change in here as well. Let's open this from Alex's view. And this is now in Microsoft Edge, where I can see that I've already opened the employee budget for Alex, and I see a lot less information here. The difference is that I now have highlights for James's comments here, and I can only see what I am responsible for. I can also see my last year's workflow and that I've worked on it. It was never actually approved, it seems, but we know we did the budget. If I go ahead and open the employee budget here and follow James's message, now that I'm logged in as Alex, I can set the salary increase period here to the 5th month, which is May. I directly see some highlights saying there is a variance compared to my previous estimation. And I can see the totals as well up here. We can see that my previous estimate was 1.270 and it's now 1.276. If I go ahead and save those values, I get a pop-up saying, is this form ready for approval? And if I press yes here, the status automatically changes to ready. If I now go back as James, I'll see that that has happened here as well. The status has been set to ready, and I can see the last update notifying me here that this change has happened. We can now keep an active dialogue here between James and Alex. A short comment from Alex saying that it's done, and James can now set this to approved, and the status turns to green. So anytime I log in, I have a direct overview of any tasks or steps that are related to me. I don't have to share the right Excel sheet to anybody, and I don't have to send any emails. All I have to do is interact with my own budget process. James can now follow up and verify in the profit and loss budget input that even though it's the same template as before, it now has an updated salary cost. Scrolling back down to the 7010 account, we can now see the 1.276 million. While in the profit and loss budget here, I can, just like before, not change anything. So if we log in as the doer of the step, Alex, we will be able to actually make edits to our profit and loss budget input. I will maximize the screen here from Alex's view and open the profit and loss budget input. The document is already open, it says. Do you wish to open it instead? But no, I actually want to reload this document. I don't see the yellow message that it's locked when I'm logging in as Alex here, and I can now make edits. I know that our previous assumption here for the budget amount for product sales revenues is actually going to be significantly higher because things have been going good this year. So I can increase that amount easily. And if I want to, I can also use formulas to increase this amount. If I show my formula bar and headings here, this is quite familiar to anyone who has done Excel. And I can go to the cell and just write a formula. Say last year's actuals times 1.25. I probably have to use the right punctuation signs. And spreading this according to last year's spread apparently got me something I didn't want. But if I take the seasonal 1 spread key here, I get that spread out to my monthly values and a new total that's significantly larger. Just like with the HR template, I can now save these values and it will ask me if I'm ready or not. I can also add row comments if I need to. And I can also add text cell comments to any of my cells. All of this is stored to the database. So whenever I look for this information, I will see this information in the cell comments. The same thing goes for the row comments. If I press home here, there's one additional way to add commentary. And this is the general commentary. Here I'm allowed to format text, add images, link these values to any of my business dimensions. Apparently I changed the name of cost center New York to Stockholm here for fun earlier. And this also allows me to keep a dialogue with others users who have access to the same information. I can attach this to comment blocks, allowing me to get this same commentary presented in my static reports. So even though it's a static report, we can engage with the commentary. This is a general comment from Cost Center 100 in the income comments month block. I now see a new tag on the right-hand side here containing this comment, and I can engage with it. If I log in as James later, I can engage and add an answer to the comment. I can see the history of the comment, and I can now add documents to the comment. For instance, the previously mentioned HR memo. All right. So let's save those values and jump back to the workflow. I can now see that set to ready, and I can no longer, as Alex, engage with this step. The only thing I can do is open it and look at the data. If I look at the data now, I can no longer change it. In order to change it, I need the responsibles either approval, disapproval, or opening it for edit again. So if we go back to James's view here, we can see that he can now unlock this step. So if Alex needs more time or needs to rethink his profit and loss budget, we can easily apply that, but not unless we approve it first. All right, so that's our major part of using a workflow for generating a profit and loss budget, with some extra details coming from an employee budget. And we can add any levels of detail or use cases, as you saw in Ranzel's screen share earlier, from the slide where we saw cash flow, capex, etc. We have an example of a balance sheet and cash flow planning here for extended demos for anyone who is interested. And there are a lot of other examples if you're looking for something specific to understand about the system. But what do we do with the data once we're done with our budget? Likely we want to look at the reports that relate to it, and we want to compare data and maybe even do a second version of the budget. We can see here that the workflow here is for budget 2025 version 1. If we want to create version 2 and start from the same place, we can easily do that as well. So James, as an admin here, can go ahead and start B2025 V2. He can copy the description from the one we were already working on and just change it to 2 and apply any other fields that you find relevant about your planning versions. That one is now empty. So if I were to open the profit and loss budget input form for that version, it will be fully empty. So if you do want to start from scratch, that's also fully possible. The ability to use formulas is also something you can design into the system. So all the flexibility you have from Excel is now tied into the database-driven budget process with a full overview and shareability and the ability to reforecast indefinitely and constantly and quickly. So if I now want to pre-populate this with data, I can easily just fill that new version using a copy data functionality. Here I take the old version 1 and take the new version 2. I make no changes and press apply. I'm even copying the cell comments and the template formulas. It tells me I have 47,000 records being copied. Are you sure you want to copy it? It will delete any existing records, which are 0. Yes. And after a few seconds, I have the new data available. If I open the input form I just had open, this was the wrong one, sorry, here. That's now empty. I can refresh this, and it has been populated with a copy of the previous version. This was a very different copy we see, but it does have the same commentary. So I guess we have duplicated data here somehow, but that's all good. We can see that the commentary has flowed along to this new version, and so has the row comment as well. Now we have all our budgets, we have multiple versions, we have our actuals in the system. What can we do with it? That's where we get back to our home screen, where we have prepared a couple of examples. First of all, you can quite easily work with the data in Bizview to build simple dashboards and ad hoc analytics. So I'm going to start from the back here, where we have a project cash flow ad hoc analytic. This is looking at another Bizview environment, and it's just shared as an iframe where we have a little bit different data. Shouldn't have version in here, I think. There we go. And here we're looking at a cash flow over time, year by year, from 2020 to 2028. And we can see that these are projects that are starting their investment in a certain year. And as time flows on, the projects require less and less cash flow investments. This data can then be presented to other analysis tools if you want to. You can keep on working with it here in Bizview, or you can export it to, for instance, Power BI. So here we're working with the exact same data being populated to Power BI using a REST API. The REST API here is OData based, so it is possible to present any data you're collecting in Bizview to, for instance, Power BI or other analysis products. All right. But what if I just want to compare the version I created to the version I was previously working on? I have some pre-populated bookmarks here for my financial planning ad hoc analytic report. Also have some for actuals, but here I have a version and scenario comparison. Here we should now be able to filter on our two version 1 and version 2. And just like in an Excel pivot table, I can click, drag, and drop. But here we're working with the live data set from each, from the database, from everything we've saved. We can see that the versions match 1-to-1 here since we haven't made any changes in version 2 yet. But we get the ability to drill down to any level of detail that we are interested in. Depending on how much data we've presented in the underlying data sets, we can get the full level details and dig down to exactly what we want. Where we also get the ability to, for instance, drag and drop fields to sort things by months or any other parameter in the dataset. All right. Apart from all of the basic functionality here, you can basically customize anything you want and schedule any integrations that you need to keep your data from your sources fresh and up to date, and also to refresh any data that you're presenting externally. There is a full access control interface where we can set individual role-based or organization-based access to any individual part of the system. You have some basic settings to set the colors of the borderlines and the home dashboard logos, along with a fully developed interface for mapping and building additional dimensionality on top of your existing source dimensions. So if we go into the account dimension, for instance, here, we can see here that we have the full mapping of our chart of accounts to any account groups or group level account groups to create any mapping across the whole company. No matter if you're a large group or just a single entity, you have the ability to create multiple versions of these account groups and any other dimension that you're working with. Typically, when we're working with budgeting and planning data, we're creating dimensionality to handle use cases such as HR planning, revenue planning, demand planning, even time planning. So the ability and flexibility to build a model on top of your existing model is extremely useful. Rounding off there, we're going to open up for a couple of questions and go back to our home dashboard here to just get a generic overview that I forgot my wording here. Last thing I do. Perfect. But at the home dashboard here, this is a typical screen that you might be bumping into when logging in for the first time to Bizview. All right. Any questions from the audience? Or from Ranzel?
Nothing from me, Gustav. Have we got any questions?
Hello again, guys. Thank you so much, Gustav, for the demo. It was really insightful. And as you said, we are now open for questions. So write down in the comment section or the chat any question you have, and Ranzel and Gustav will be answering them. Okay, we have the first question. So
Perfect.
Okuchiku asked, what is the difference between Bizview and Excel?
So if I jump into one of our profit and loss budget inputs here, do you wish to open the already opened one? In this case, yes. The locking of cells and everything is very similar to Excel. The formulas you're able to use are the same. Formulas created after 2016 may be an issue, such as the XLOOKUP formula, but you can get around that quite easily. Mostly the formulas and building in Excel-like features is about creating templates in Bizview rather than sharing spreadsheets or using spreadsheets. The usage is simply the interfaces that are locked to do what you want to do. I can, if I want to, share this to Excel, where I can export for import, open this in Excel, and it looks exactly the same. I cannot edit the numbers unless I already could. In this case, I could. And if I save the numbers here and go back to Bizview, I can import this for saving later. This specific template was now locked from James, so he could not do any inputs. But if Alex does the same, he can import it back from Excel. So the big thing about it is that your database connected here. You can absolutely connect your database to Excel as well, but building a whole model of handling models is a complicated task. So anytime you press save here, you're saving to a database and you're attaching to your dimensionality. So if you want to look at the same data in another view, you switch it around and you run the query. Run the query, refresh the template, so to speak.
Okay, and I have a question, Gustav. Now, like for a company using mainly Excel, is it easy for them to shift from Excel to Bizview?
Usually, yes. So most of the time, we will simply copy the existing models that you're working on in Excel and connect them to the database in Bizview. So basically, we're looking at keeping the look and feel, keeping everything as you know it, but making changes to make it more dynamic. Behind the scenes here, this is just one line extending all my accounts and giving me subtotals where I want them. So there's a lot of flexibility in creating a dynamic model that you don't have in Excel.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. We have another question. Can it be integrated into Business Central like a plan and Power BI?
Yeah, there is a pre-built functionality to connect to Business Central where we have the ability to pull in the dimensionality and transactions from any company within Business Central. So first we get to select which company and then select which tables. And we have pre-built profit and loss templates, balance sheet templates, and a cash flow report based on any Business Central source.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Sunday you asked about the recording. Yeah, for sure. We will send you the recording after this webinar via mail. So yeah, it will be available. Any more questions, guys, before we wrap up?
As for the Power BI question, I can show a little bit here behind the scenes that I have data sets here coming from my different demo environments. And that's what I'm building this report on, which I'm in turn publishing in Power BI Online and embedding this in Bizview if I want to. So I'll press File here and Embed, and I take this. And once I do that, I go to my home dashboard and attach that in here. So that's the full flow here, basically. We are working on creating or I think it has recently been released, a new API that's based on the Insight Software platform or Open Business Data Fabric, which allows full OData connectivity basically to any of our products.
Good. We have another question from Joseph. He asked, how does Bizview foster collaboration between finance and also other departments in creating unified planning processes?
One thing that I find really useful for this purpose is simply the ability to create a storyboard that shows the relevance of your financial drivers for your budget that usually make more sense for the rest of the organization than the finance team. The fact that I've created this storyboard here for this specific webinar, containing a couple of Power BI related cash flow views. And similar, allows me to package this quite easily for the intended viewer. Now, it might be that it's your finance users who have the user licenses and the rest of your organization are external to Bizview, in which case you can easily present this in, for instance, Power BI, or take the screenshot share options as well here. Export as image. So if you want to use this as in an offline PowerPoint, you can quite easily just open that as a empty PNG apparently, but take a screenshot of your dashboards.
Okay, so also like you can do the same thing. For example, you show with the employee salaries, the HR team will be able to use it, as you said.
Exactly. So it doesn't really matter if it's financials that you're working with. It can be anything that you can think of. And employee, for instance, is not a dimension coming from Business Central here. This is a dimension created for the purpose of creating a detailed employee budget. Just like you can create a detailed sales planning budget or a detailed consultancy hours planning budget. Doesn't have to be tied to the financials, and that's a nice flexibility.
I hope we answered your question. Thank you, Joseph. He has another question. He asked, what metrics can CFOs use to measure the return on investment when implementing Bizview in their financial operations?
One of the most common simplified breakdowns that I actually run into often, or used to run into often when implementing this, is to measure how many people are performing the budget. Let's say you have 10 people. How many individual Excel workbooks are you sharing to these 10 people? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4 different ones? And are there multiple versions of them? So how long does it take to share those, do the inputs in Excel, and share them back to consolidate the spreadsheets into one final budget? And it's usually that process that's the biggest return on investment, that you're simply collecting that whole exercise into the simplicity of the workflow. So you'll follow your task as you go along. You'll get your emails when they're supposed to be done. We have our due dates here as well that will trigger email notifications. And you can log in to see your overview of how it's going at any point in time, and just simply collaborate where you're doing the work, rather than having to use emails, Excel, spreadsheets, SharePoint, and not know where you're going.
Okay, so yeah, it's a good place like to have like a centralized place for all the data that you have. Okechukwu asked it also, like, how dynamic and flexible are the reports on this view?
Depending on how you design them. I can make a static report that looks exactly like this, but has none of the functionality. In here, we have a couple of view tags that I didn't show previously, that shows and hides the monthly level details of the salaries here, for instance. I've experimented myself for fun purposes, to be honest, in making one cell reports, we call it. basically something that's completely controlled from your selection panes. So if you want to select employees on the rows and months on the columns, or if you want to do the opposite, it's all possible. But usually you have predefined use cases that you're looking to replicate that. Yeah, it's you have the flexibility, but also the possibility to box yourself in as you're usually supposed to.
Okay, great. Another question about the license. Like, is there different packages? Is it based on the number of users? How does it work, the license for Bizview?
There is an initial implementation cost or services. That's usually a one-time fee. But if you want to build things in the future, it's quite common for customers to re-engage with the service delivery team. This can vary anywhere between 6 and 60 days of work, and the rates can vary depending on who performs the work. But other than that, it's a SaaS license. And I think we bind it on 3 years, right, Ranzel? Yeah. So the license is a system license and a user license on top of that, where we have 3 different kinds of users. You've seen the admin users here in James, and you've seen the power users or regular end users in Alex. And you also have viewer users that cannot perform any inputs, but can view dashboards and analytics, etc.
Yes, when we send out the recording, I'll make sure the license types are also attached to that, just so that you can have a view and see what are the differences between an admin, power, and viewer, and you'll have a clear sort of definition there for your review.
Okay, great. And also, like for every user, what are like the let's say the features that are available to them to use on Bizview? Okay, guys, any more questions before we wrap up? So in the meantime, I have a question for both of you. So for Bizview, what do you think is, like, for each one of you, what is, let's say, the best feature that you think is best suitable for your client and solve their, like, let's say, exact needs? What is the best feature for you?
I mean, for me, it's the fact that teams are able to just shrink their planning cycle overall. I think the stat that I showcased earlier, the fact that one of our customers was able to shrink the whole monthly forecasting time by 92%,
Wow.
and you can allocate that time elsewhere, for a value added analysis or whatever you guys want to do. Maybe take a walk during lunch. You have a lot more time now, So I think that's my favorite thing about BizView.
Nice, nice. What about you, Gustav?
I always fall back to the workflow functionality. I'm logged out of this environment here, but I'm showing a other dashboard here that shows an overview of bottlenecks within workflows. And even if you're just 5 people in an organization performing a budget once a year, just having that constant overview and relatability and ability to drill down in the details to see what's going on and why is it going on, it's powerful. I am also slowly shifting my preference from workflows to dashboards in general, with the ability to simply put everything in a package is also very powerful. Thinking that if you're performing your budget, it would be really great for somebody to tell you, just go take that package and do those things, rather than having to send the right version of spreadsheets and go looking for emails that consolidate the information that I need to be able to find. And it's nice to be able to have an overview.
Nice, nice. And like both of you mentioned budgeting. So now as we are like closing the year and many companies are doing their like budgeting. So any advice for them?
Gustav, what do you think? Any advice for for people? If you can find ways to save time, then do it. It's a very. I know how long-winded of a process it can be.
Collaborate. compare your notes with each other. We're not doing a test in school anymore. It's okay to copy each other's notes and compare.
Nice one. Thank you so much, guys. So I think we are closing now. So thank you again for joining us today, Ranzel and Gustav from Inside Software. It was a pleasure having you with us. And for sure, next year we'll have other session like other like let's say in-depth session on Bizview and delve deep into it. So thank you so much for joining us, and everyone, thank you so much for your attention and for your engaging comments. So see you next time and have a lovely afternoon. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Emin, and thank you everyone for joining.
Wonderful comments.
Thank you.
Nice to read it all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, guys.